Welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. I am using a paper bag. It's a very sturdy bag for life paper bag though. And I'm just wanting to practice some abstract art. So the purpose is today that I want to look at the kind of elements and look at what it is that I am doing with them. So I really like line work and I do a lot of line work, and I do find that I use that as part of shaping the composition. And I really love this black marker, and I find it hard actually to do anything without it now. I do think I need to get another one out though. This one has been well used and well loved. So I think that maybe if I go to use it again in here, I'll get another one out. Now, I also love the China marker, which I use a lot. And I like this because it's permanent. I know this looks a bit crazy, like what's going on, all you're doing is kind of doing looping lines, but it's just part of the phase I'm in just now, and this is how I like to do things. I have an exhibition coming up, and I have, I'm part of an art club and we have an exhibition coming up, and I have made a painting I'm very proud of for the exhibition, and this is how it started. So I'll put that on for you to see. Now this is graphite, which is basically a pencil, but it has it's fully graphite, so you can, but this is more like shapes though, I would say, than lines at the moment. I think when it comes to lines and shapes, it's really to do with the proportion of what's on your page. You know, I'm actually being a wee bit fast with these today because I've set myself an hour time limit, because I tend to, it's hard to know when you've finished a painting and when you've not. Now, I have been loving using the inks, but they do take a long time to dry, these acrylic inks, and so what I find is they start to bleed through. So I'm not going to use them. I did have a watercolour pencil. Right, now I want to put on some collage pieces. Oh, that's more interesting on the back, isn't it? Okay. So this is more, I would say the elements here we're adding in, or is it principles? I'm not sure which is which. We are looking at kind of shape and texture starting to come in here. What I love is matching up lines as well. I don't know, it just makes me feel it it's my way of connecting all the layers together, and it's almost like being intuitive but setting rules to that and intuitiveness. This bag's probably got some sort of coating on it. Now, the reason I'm doing 2 at a time is because I find that I get much less attached when I do 2 at a time. And that is a very good thing. I find that I do less thinking. So this is some old book pages out of a damaged book. So yeah, I want to try and set a time limit because I keep making videos, and because I've been making these paintings for an exhibition, it's just a local, it's not, I mean, everything I know about art I've learned on YouTube. But I'm trying to merge the two, YouTube and the art exhibition, and it's not working because they're 2 different ways of working. Obviously any painting I do is fun, but for YouTube the fun is the priority, the relaxation, it's just about exploring different, using different, using different methods. There we go. Like, see the brown paper bags? I really want to use them in the exhibition, and I kind of I'm thinking of, because obviously sustainability is a massive thing, and I have discovered these bags are not good for gel printing. They're not absorbent enough. However, as a base, they're extremely sturdy. So I see no reason why, they couldn't be mounted, in a frame. In fact, I'm sure I've got one that I've mounted in a frame. I'm really into the lettering on this bag. I was going to use the underneath, the inside of the bag. But I'm like, why waste that? Why waste those marks that are already there? So yeah, I was talking about how, so I've been making lots of videos, but then I've not been, because I've not been finishing the work, they don't feel editable. Editable, is that a word? It should be a word. And they just don't feel like the sort of videos that I want to make on YouTube. So this is why I've thought to myself, I am just going to come on and have fun and set an hour, and wherever this is in that hour is where it is. And so the purposes of today's one, for me, is about, I've been trying to learn about the elements and principles of art, I've been trying to learn about them for a long time now. Like the Art Prof channel is excellent for fundamentals because they're proper teachers that are based in, I mean, they've chosen New York, so I can't remember what university in America they're based in. But basically it's a free channel where they teach you so much. So it's like a trusted source. But you do need to put the work in because it's not something that you can learn in bite-sized chunks. However, putting the work in with them and then finding the bite-sized chunks, I think has been really helpful about learning more details and taking it further. And so what my intention here is to try and think about the elements of what I'm doing at each stage I'm doing it. Now I know that it's a combination of lots of different things that you're doing. I mean, you can't just say collage is texture. Collage is obviously shape, it's edges, there's colour, you know, there's your positioning and where you're putting it. Although at this stage I'm not thinking about that, apart from I'm thinking about what lines are there already. But apart from that, but to look at it more simply, I am trying to think of it as a sort of texture. And these first layers are, these are the fun layers, which almost gives you what you're going to actually work on to make the painting. So I am thinking about getting some paint on the go. Okay, so I'm going to use Crimson Alizarin, Indigo Blue, which is my favourite blue. I just think it gives out a lovely, I don't know, it's just such a rich colour, I think. I think I like the purples it makes. And cadmium yellow. So I was doing paintings yesterday and actually it ended up, the palette was a very cold palette and it almost made me think of alcohol marker colours. I used the alizarin crimson, the indigo blue and lemon yellow, and it was very cold and the colours just, oh, I found them hard to work with. But at the same time it is important to explore. But what I'm going to do now is maybe just change one colour at a time. So cadmium yellow, cadmium red, both deep hues, and indigo blue are generally my go-to. So what I've done this time is I've just added in alizarin hue. So we'll just change one at a time maybe. And we need white and black. I ended up, generally I just add in white with the colours because I feel like there's enough black going on already with the lines that, you know, the tools I use for lining are generally black. But I found with those cold colours that it really helped make them a bit more mature looking. They really did remind me of alcohol markers. Right. So I'm also going to put some glazing medium on top of these because it helps them stay wet for longer. And I also think that it just, I just think that it makes the colours look richer and it flows on your paintbrush better. Okay. brown paper bag does take a wee while to... It can take a lot of layers. In the UK we have what's called bags for life. And they're made to be reused again and again and again. So they're designed to last, which is why I like to use them. So, once it's been used a few times, I just add it to my pile. Because invariably, you go shopping and you forget your bag. It's just what you do. So I'm actually just kind of going round the collage pieces. I'm using them to create the shapes. And space, I suppose. Space is something that I don't think a lot about. I definitely get over busy all the time. I love the look of minimalist paintings, but I'm totally incapable of making them. They just, when somebody else makes it, I'm like, it looks great. It looks totally finished, and it would ruin it to add anything else. And when I try to make something like that, I'm like, oh, do you know, I think I don't have a delicate enough hand to put something on the paper and then say, well, that's it. That's it, finished. Because the white space and whatever it is that I've painted just looks, the contrast is too great. Now, I think this would come under edges as well, because obviously just now all the edges are they're not sharp, they're not well defined, so they're all quite they're very blurry. They don't tell you anything apart from everything's just a wee bit intermingled just now. Right, I need to let this dry, so I will get out the heat gun. I'll just turn the camera off for these drying periods though. There we go. Right, I do love this alizarin crimson because it's oh, it's so bright and pink. There we go, there's a nice orangey colour with it. Quite a lot of black I've pulled out. I think I've made brown now, so we'll just go with it. I'm going to add in some white. But I don't normally step this far on at this stage. I normally like to make my secondary colours. I've got Gallus with adding in the black. There we go. Got a nice chocolate brown colour. We need more white. There we go. So I've been thinking about line, shape and form. So I would say, in my mind, if you think of an apple, the line is the circle, the shape is the sphere, and the form is the apple itself, what you add into that sphere to make it an apple. However, I think you've also got to think about what your painting is, like how detailed is your painting. So for example, in something that's a very simplified abstract, the sphere itself might be the form because everything else is just the line work. Now that is really, really simple, and also a simplified version of what I think. And also, I'm still learning these things myself, so my understanding is still a bit hazy, and I'm using these analogies in my head as a way of trying to understand them so that I can make better paintings. So if I'm making an abstract where it's the suggestion of things, and then all of a sudden I've got this perfectly formed apple, which would be good if I could do that, in there, then I think that that would be, well, out of place for a start, but it would be too much form. It just, the painting wouldn't gel. I almost think of line, shape and form as a hierarchy. So when they talk about merging shapes to create mood and just to bring like the focal point, and basically to just, it's your decision to make that painting and what you merge and what you make stand out, then for me form is almost, the more form something has, that's the more that it's standing out maybe. But then if your painting was all form, would it be the line that stood out? These are the questions that go round in my head that I'm still trying to find answers to. Right, we're definitely going down. Do you know, this alizarin hue is actually such a powerful colour. I'm just on this pink journey now. I'm on a journey of pink. But we're just going to go with it. So obviously at this stage as well, we're putting down colours. Now I've started to use a limited palette because I find that it makes it easier for the whole painting to come together. So it's one less thing that I have to overly think about. Just like when I do two paintings at the same time, I don't think about composition as much. Basically, it helps me just go with the flow more using this mixed palette, because I know that because of the limited palette, if I just put down one, if there was only to be one of those pink of that exact colour there, then it's not going to look out of balance, because I know that colour has been put into other mixtures of colour. Right, I think it's time to add in some more colours because it's all getting a wee bit browny pink. It's not going anywhere. It's getting boring. I will say the brown paper bag is much harder to paint on in these early layers. Absolutely. Which kind of makes it more fun, because I'm fully aware that I'm going to have to basically spend time in these layers. So I can just do what I want, because these are just early, because I'm going to need to put more on. And also, obviously, the element of colour is probably the biggest thing here. And then I've been learning about, oh, I'll probably say this wrong, chromatography and which is colour saturation and value. So basically it's, if I mix white in with my red, then obviously it's going, the more white that's in it, the lighter the colour will be, and also the lighter the value will be. However, I could then take that colour and then add a little bit of that in with lots of white. And again, that will be more desaturated, but maybe because there was so much white in it already, the value won't change very much. So I'm still trying to get my head around that though. So gosh, I've went very grey very fast. I think this alizarin crimson is a hard colour to use as your red in a palette. I'm wondering if there's not enough red in it, basically. I feel like I've got a palette of Dulux paint colours. I feel like this should be called like Lightstone. I do love cadmium yellow and indigo blue as a green because it's such an olivey colour. I'm putting a bit of white in because I've put a bit of white in everything. Right now I'm just creating a base to tell a story from. And people talk about layers as well, and I'm going to add a wee bit of black into that. I tend to do a lot of layers, because I just get, once you see that picture starting building, I just want to keep going with it. So the picture that I showed earlier on, the one, you know, that's for the exhibition, I mean, that's a big picture. That's nearly 1 metre by 1 metre. And I don't know how many layers are on that. I mean, there must be at least 20, at least. But as you get towards the end, the layers do decrease in the amount you're putting on because you're able to specify more about what you're wanting. It's not my intention to cover the whole thing, but that's kind of where I've went, so let's just do this. Right. I'm just covering my paint with some cling film. And I'm going to dry it. Now for me, right now, the colours that are standing out the most are purple and that yellow. Those two are quite vibrant and I like them. Shape-wise, we've just got a lot of shapes. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle, but at this stage, this is normally where I end up. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to do some more lines because I want to use the lines to try and create more defined shapes. So I'm going to do that. Now, I do love this black marker. So right away I've made like an S shape. I didn't set out to do that, that's just kind of where it's went to. I really like this here. As well. And on this one, there isn't really anything that's standing out apart from this here, but I want to use a thinner line for it. No, we're just going to do it. Do you know why I wanted to use a thinner line? Because I was being not brave enough. I was overthinking. When I do these lines as well, I try not overly control them. I'm trying to let the, you know, whatever it is that I'm using, decide to an extent. Obviously I'm moving it. Right, I'm going to get out some of my tissue paper collage. Now, this is, when I was doing paintings yesterday, like, I'll show you. Like, that's not them. They're unfinished as well. Oh, that's went wrong. It's not went wrong. It needs... I don't like the pink and the orange I've put through the middle. It doesn't sit well, the colour itself. So when I've been putting down paint, I have then lifted it back off with tissue paper. And I find that is much better than making your... I almost like to use what's happened when I've used it in other paintings than making collage papers. Although I still do like to do that, I just do it, I find it less random. I like the squareness of this one. I like that one on there. We'll keep that one on there. Right, so let's put them down. I always have a towel handy. Now the reason that I love tissue paper collage is the transparency. Sometimes you want to cover something up completely and that happens a lot. Like those paintings I just showed you, they're far from being finished, but there'll be elements of them that will decide where they're going to go. Now I would never be able to paint that on like that. I don't really want to use much more black this time. No. Right, now I want to start thinking about space, I suppose, a bit more about what's important to me in this picture. I am liking this here. Now I'm using the colour shaper because it's given me a sharper edge and it allows me to control the thickness of the paint that I'm putting on. So all these colours that I've put on already, they will still show through to an extent. Clearly picked up a bit of purple there. I'm not very good at managing my colour palette and keeping it all very clean. And I know I've just put this bit of collage down, but this is just where we're at with it. I'm going to use the tub. Terribly messy. For me right now, that's so much more interesting than it was. But I had to go through that process to get to there. So I suppose right now, when it comes to the element of space, I suppose I'm almost using it by working out what I like and what I don't like, and using that to direct the space at the moment. So it's actually really good for me talking out loud about this, because it's making me actually think, because in my head I probably think things but I don't finish thinking them because I'm not saying it out loud. And obviously if I'm making a video, when I say it out loud, I have to also, I can't just say half a sentence, although I'm sure I do quite often. Right. I kind of wanted to keep some of the yellow, but I'm not sure how much, because I think I want to keep the yellow because it's the colour more than anything, but I'm not sure it's adding. Let me try and take this edge out and see what happens. Is it the map that's bothering me? No. Right, the yellow needs to go because it's not. Right, what do we think of this? I think skewer. I have loads of skewers and I keep them all until they break, because the more you use them, the more interesting the shapes become. Oh. And I was given this by a lovely relative recently, and it's a tree twig that's been sharpened into a point. I also like to use this. Might use that here, see if I can get a finer point. Sometimes if it's just dried in, I'll just use this China marker. I like that. Now this one's obviously dried a lot more. Still a bit wet. I don't know really if I want to do any lines on this just now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry it, and then I'm going to use some oil pastels and chalk pastels to try and just create a bit more detail. Before I do that, I'd like to make a yellow. Kind of mustard yellow. what I would like to do is, it may be too much, but I would like to just start looking at filling in. It's quite bright, isn't it? Does it need a bit more of that in it? Right now as well, I'm keeping things quite separate. Look, obviously the more layers you put on, you are going over and over the paint colours. Now with this one, I kind of want to keep that out just now. But I'm not going to. Right, quick dry. Okay, so the colour of yellow is a bit... Right, let me work this out, because I'm trying to think of the value and the saturation. So I would say that it is less saturated. I do want it to be lighter, but I would say that I want more yellow in it. But we will come to that. Now, the oil pastels can add a bit of... The paint can resist them a bit, so that adds on a bit of interest when you're doing the painting, which is why I kind of held back and used them. Now, these ones are water soluble, which is at the time it felt like that's what I wanted, but it's a bit... It can smear the colour, which is a bit annoying. Now I'm just putting some lines down where I feel that I want to put them down. Being a bit brave with this one, because I'm going right into the purple and grey. Now obviously these are different shades than this, but I've just got to work with what I've got. There we go. That is quite a vibrant yellow, isn't it? It's fine. I'm just trying to, I would like to add, see the way I've added some lines there. I would like to add some in here, but I'm not quite sure where I would want to add them. It seems obvious to do it there. Right, so I've reached about an hour now, so I'm not going to do any more of these in this video. But what I would say is, I think that where I've added in, like where you can see the collage coming through, you can see the pen marks, I think that's what helps build form in the shapes, the way that I approach the abstract paintings. So for me, form has started in here and in here. Now this could be seen as this, I'm not sure where that's going to go. But overall, there's obviously lines. There's obviously shape that are well defined by the colours. The colour is complementary. Value, obviously there's different values in the line work and the colours, but overall we've really got a white background and a kind of mid-value shape with some dark value lines is what I would say is going on. That's maybe a more darker value shape here. Here and here actually. And that's probably mid-value, and that's lighter value. Texture, obviously the mixed media gives you texture. These marks from the colour shaper, the brown paper bag itself changes, you know, that affects the way that the paint's applied. So that's creating texture. The way that this is actually curling up in itself is creating texture. So there's lots of texture on there and space. So for me, the white around it is the space. And that is my thought processes on how I am understanding the elements of art at the moment. There isn't really much composition on here, is there? It's almost like an L shape, isn't it, really? L-shaped compositions. And a focal point, I mean, it's the contrast and values that creates your, you know, the biggest impact on focal point. I would say I'm drawn down here more. And maybe that's because it's more of a recognisable shape. Because it does have a kind of, almost like an animal lying down shape in my eyes. And I think this is maybe the focal point here because that yellow is so far removed from the rest of it, maybe. I think we're at too early a stage to define focal points. Anyway, that's enough just now, and thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon, and take care.